Right, good afternoon, everybody. Just letting people into the room. We can keep doing that as people come. But welcome to our next virtual coffee chat. It's been great having these continuous conversations with everybody, and really happy to have Melissa Moskal from PNE here to talk about what they've been able to do. So there's some great activity been going on at PNE. And it's been fantastic to watch from my Toronto perspective what you've been able to deliver in Vancouver for that. But before we get into too much of it, just want to highlight a couple elements. We've got two other talks coming up in November. We've got Nick Marullo from Cinco out of Montreal. So large experiential and sponsorship activation specialists. So it'll be great to hear how they're changing how they deliver brand activation for sponsorship in the hybrid virtual COVID experiences. So looking forward to that. And then based on a lot of requests to bring them back, we're bringing back Francesco Gentile from Sandler, who's going to do sales training discussion. And then associated with him, we're bringing Gavin Roth in, who is a sponsorship revenue specialist. So the two of them have done a lot of teamwork together, delivering conferences in the past. So looking forward to having both of them here for some discussion. If you haven't used Zoom before, on the top right of your screen, you can change the view from gallery to speaker, so depending on what your preference is. And then at the bottom, there's the opportunity to chat. Feel free to ask any questions here. And if you're really brave, you can just let us know. We'll turn on your mic and let you join the conversation. It's always great to have additional voice, additional faces on this. So what I'm going to do now is, without stealing too much of your fanfare, Melissa, I'm going to pass it off to you to introduce yourself.
Terrific. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Melissa Moskal. I'm the Manager of Sales and Marketing for the Pacific National Exhibition. My portfolio covers corporate partnerships, as well as the connection between the sales and marketing teams to keep everything moving forward. So, and I've been in the corporate partnerships realm for a number of years, but specifically with the PNE for, this will be my this just was actually my 5th fair with the PNE. So, and we've got an amazing amount of stuff happening. So I'm excited to talk about it today.
Great. Well, I think one of the probably great places to start is I'm really familiar with how the CNE operates, involved with their association here, and I've got that sort of 19-day view of what a fair exhibition is, but my understanding of the PNE is a lot more than that. So what exactly does your operation look like?
Yeah, so my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you sit on the CNEA board, my understanding is that Exhibition Place is the manager of that location year-round, and that the CNEA is the 19-day fair that is a tenant on those grounds. They don't run the entire year's events on site. That's done by Exhibition Place.
Exactly, yeah.
We are an all-encompassing group. So the PNE, the Pacific National Exhibition, is the steward of 120-ish acres of parkland and buildings on Hastings Park. We're one of 3 tenants, per se, on the park. We share the land, which is about 165 acres, with a horse track, Hastings Park, that does thoroughbred racing, and also with a sports grounds, Empire Stadium, that is run by the City of Vancouver. We are wholly owned by the City of Vancouver, but we're self-sustaining, and we maintain the park and all of its surroundings through 365 days. So the fair, which is 15 days out here, not 19, is just one of our business streams. We also own an amusement park, Playland, which is a second business stream for us, and it runs from early May right through until we close Fright Nights normally in a normal year at the end of October, and that's Vancouver's most haunted attraction. And then we have year-round events. So we welcome about 3 million people to our park every year. Outside of those two events, we have trade shows, consumer shows, concerts, some big concerts. We have family shows like Disney on Ice and Monster Jam, and Harlem Globetrotters are on our site. We have some sporting events in our Coliseum. So we are running all day, every day, all year round. So
what's that look like over the last 6-7 months?
It's been different. So as you would know, the fair did not run this year in its normal way. Instead, we have been doing drive-through events that started in May with a mini donut drive-through. We also were able to open our Playland amusement park. Thankfully, it is a business, not an event. And so it falls under a different category for health and safety when it comes to opening businesses out here on the West Coast. So we were able to open Playland, of course, with limited capacities and greater health and safety concerns in mind. So everyone who comes in now gets a really cool face mask. That's a big yellow smiley face emoji. And that's phenomenal. And that's giving us, it's giving us the ability to have our staff back on and have hours for staff who were laid off in the spring. It's giving the public an opportunity to do something fun and enjoyable and somewhat normal, because it's the tradition every year to bring your family to the Playland Park and go on all the thrill rides, and have grandparents watching their 4-year-olds going around on Honeybee Express, and we're able to offer all of that now. And then we're able to run. This is the best part and the most cohesive piece for partnerships. We were able to run our lottery this year. So every year we give away a prize home. It's worth about $2 million. We build that home in the grounds, and we open the lottery in May, and we sell tickets to it throughout the season. We have a number of partners who are attached to that, everything from our builder and our land developer right through to partners who provide furnishings. And we had Husqvarna on site. They had a lawnmower, a robotic lawnmower as part of the package. And they were all able to see their benefits this year because we were able to run the lottery in a year where most partnerships were put on hold. So we're quite excited about that.
Now, did you find you had to modify what the benefits were and how those were being delivered to impact that?
For the prize home, a little bit. Some of the partners, not all of them, had some expectations of being on the site for the 15-day fair. And of course, that couldn't happen. So we looked at other ways for them to be involved through preview days that we were able to run on site, or through a pivot to digital assets or more collateral material exposure for them. So for the most part, it was okay. And we find that we have great partners as well. So that helps a lot.
I know in our prep conversations, to one, looking at sponsors is one element, but your partners who are bringing content experiences to the PNE, and you were saying that was actually the first re-engagement you had when you were talking about the food trucks and being able to give those partners business.
Yeah, so from an operational standpoint, we have a number of vendors that really count on fairs overall. There are probably people on this call right now who are also in that industry and have run into a situation where they've had to cancel vendors who are longtime vendors. Many of those vendors have a truck or two trucks, and it's their family that runs it. And if you lose all of your business for an entire season, that's decimating to a business and to a family. So right at the front of this, we started looking from the operations side at how we could help support those vendors. And that's what brought the Mini Donut drive-through to life. We had 4 Mini Donut vendors who are long-term vendors of ours, who all became a part of the phenomenal experience we had on site. And when we opened it up for sales, people came by droves. They were excited that there was going to be an opportunity to experience some of our fair food. And they came on site, and, you know, faster than we could thank them for being a part of it, they were thanking us for putting it on. So it was a really feel-good weekend for us. And it gave us the intel that we could move forward and do other ones and help support more food vendors. So we've been running the Taste of the PNE events with different editions. So we've done the Mini Donuts, we've done a Father's Day edition, which was super cool. It was a reverse a car show. So you drove past the cars instead of the cars being parked and you walking by them. We did a Canada Day reverse parade where we had live entertainment set up in our Coliseum, and everyone drove by and they decorated their cars and you know, waved their Canadian flags. And again, we're able to get some fair food at the end. Lots of real mac and cheese and barbecue and hot dogs and corn dogs were sold that day for sure. And those are all secondary vendors. And then we did an August drive-through for Canada Day. And then we did our big fair drive-through for 10 days, which was fantastic. And we sold out the final weekend of it. And now we're working on a Halloween one that is running next week that is already essentially sold out. And in the meantime, we've had Playland running right through the season, and they have been putting a number of people through. We've been hitting capacities for many days, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. We've got really low capacities as per Vancouver Coastal Health to keep everybody safe. And we have really good sanitation opportunities in place for it so that people feel really safe. But at the end of the day, we really want everyone to feel like they're a part of what's going on. So we're constantly involving those vendors in what we do. And we look to them as partners in the event.
And I know, you're not on the operations side, but definitely public health is, has to be a big partner in this and have them on board to permit it all. So how have you been sort of monitoring that, making sure the public's aware of it and being able to deliver on those experiences?
Yeah, we have a great operations team who are talking with Vancouver Coastal Health and also with WorkSafe BC on an almost daily basis to make sure that we are meeting all of the requirements all the time. Some things change from event to event, so we have to stay in constant communication, and knock wood, they've been really good with what we've been doing, and they've allowed us to build on our events every time. So what started as a small mini donut drive-through now includes things like in August we had a dine-in version where we had a 90-minute time zone. You could sit at a picnic table, have your barbecue delivered to you along with a nice cold beer, and listen to dueling pianos for 90 minutes. Really small capacities, 50 maximum to meet the requirements of Coastal Health, but it worked really well, and it allows us to build on new ideas because we're a proving ground for Coastal Health that we can do things safely.
Which is awesome, and I know you've got a large focus on analytics, and you've been doing a lot of measurement using LiveGauge on site. How have you been able to incorporate one? I guess when we step back, like what kind of analytics have you been tracking in the past, and what's that look like this past summer?
Yeah, so I know you and I talked a lot about analytics, and analytics are my jam. I love having measurements because when I go to talk to agencies and brands, I want them to know that I know what's going on site and that they can trust our team to deliver on data. So it's really important to us. In previous years, and when we get back to normal, we'll be using LiveGauge. LiveGauge is a great system. It passively tracks flow patterns on site so that we can see dwell times and impression data throughout the day. We use it mostly for fare because we have 750,000 people on site, but it's not our only way of tracking data. We do intercept data. So we have an external company that does a number of days of intercept data for us on site, especially for fare, but also for our other events. And then we also hire a team in partnerships that does intercept data for the full 15 days of fare so that we can concentrate specifically on partnership data. Do the guests know who our partner is for zero waste? When you go into the livestock barns, what is the brand that you see most cohesively? If you were to choose a bank, would you choose the bank that is partnering here on site so that we can then go back to our partners with really strong evaluations? And then this year, it's been a little different, but we still need to do our research and have been. We've been concentrating mostly on customer experience, of course, because it's been different. Playland is different than it has been. You have to wear a mask. There's a lot of cleaning. The games aren't open. It's just a different experience, but the rides are open, the thrill rides are open, and people are still looking for 2 or 3 hours of just having fun on site. So we want to know where that guest experience level sits through an NPS. We also did a survey for our drive-throughs because we wanted to get NPS, Net Promoter Scores, for all of our drive-throughs. And we're really excited to say that our Net Promoter Score currently for our drive-throughs is sitting at 8.1, which is phenomenal. It means that the guests are saying that they would be ambassadors for us and tell other people to come and experience what they've experienced. So we're really proud of that. And we're also able to track through our Ticket Leader program exactly how many people are on site. And it gives us contact tracing, of course, but it also allows us to understand who's coming through the ticketing process, because you have to buy in advance. There's no ticketing on site for these events. So it allows us to know who's coming. We're finding generally our drive-through events are family oriented. Our fare was pretty fun. You'd get mom and dad in the front seat and like 6 kids in the back of the SUV, all waiting for their candy apple and their mac and cheese, so it's pretty fun.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the defaults of contact tracing is actually data. I know from having worked a number of attractions that the person who shows up isn't necessarily the one who bought the ticket, and then 2, even if you do have the information on the person who bought the ticket, you don't have any information on the additional 4 or 5 tickets that they purchased. So the contact tracing gives you so much more.
Exactly.
So is there a balance in privacy of how you use that?
Oh, of course. Absolutely, there's privacy, and privacy is key to our Ticket Leader system. We own our own ticketing system, so we're very careful about CASL rules and making sure that we don't go outside any privacy. But, and knock wood, we have not yet had a situation where we've had to go back to the public and say, there's been an outbreak on this day and this hour. So we haven't had to use any of the contact tracing, but it does give us, by stripping out the personal information, it gives us demographics. So it's good to have. And that's a conversation that we then forward off to, especially our agency partners, to see, what they're doing, because they've all shifted as well, and what they could do with us, because we know who's going to be on site.
And how are you having those conversations with the agencies and with the sponsors? How much do you find you have to go out and do a bit of a dog and pony show with them, or are they coming to you?
We're putting the work in. So we're going out to them. I think that one of the things that we keep in mind constantly is that we're very empathetic to everyone has a lot of work on the go right now. So we're putting the work in. We're contacting our agencies. I've got a pretty extensive database of agencies and brands. We've got 3 people on the team who are doing outbound calling every day. We feel that, it's been 6 months of pretty quiet time, and now is the time to be opening the doors for conversation. Nobody knows what 2021 is going to look like yet, but we have to start assuming that we're going to need to move forward and have conversations and see who is open to being a part of what we're doing and where the alignments are. We also have a number of partners who parked their 2020 contracts for a year so that we could re-engage in 2021, and we're starting to have those conversations about what 2021 is going to look like here. So hopefully that'll all start to pull together. And then for the Halloween event and the Christmas event, we've now got data. We know who's been coming to these events, and it allows us to have really open conversations, especially with our agencies who are representing some really solid, mostly regional brands, about what they could be doing, because I think the brands are itching to get back out there and find a way to get in front of people. So if we can offer them a safe opportunity, and the Halloween event is a testament to being able to provide a safe opportunity, because we've got some partners for this now, and it's our first event of the season that's going to have partners in it that's not prize home related.
And I think that's a big thing, is being able to go to somebody and say, okay, here's what we can do, and here's how we've proven it works. I could definitely say from personal experience, going to a grocery store about 2 weeks ago, and a food brand had their sample ladies set up outside, and she was pretty lonely. There was a lot of people in line to go into the store, but nobody was going near her. I think people from the agency side need that creativity to figure out, okay, here's how we can work with the new systems.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's been a challenge. It's interesting. I was doing one of our dog and pony shows. I don't like to call them that, because really we have solid conversations with agencies we've built strong relationships with, who trust us and who we trust as well. And we were having a Zoom conversation. I was running through some documents about what they could do with some of their brands. And one of the participants on the call said, "It's funny, isn't it, that in a normal year, we wouldn't think that 1,500 vehicles on a day was a good impression rate. But this year, 1,500 vehicles in a day is a phenomenal impression rate."
And has that affected your revenue? Because are they ratcheting that down? No.
Of course, yeah. We've been very open that our revenue, we're very public. We have a public annual report, so everyone is able to see what our revenues and expenses are. And the news picked it up months ago that we expect normally in any given year about $55 million in revenue and about $1 million in profit. We're a non-profit entity, and all of our profit goes back into the park in one way or another, either through community grants to the community or to upgrades to the park itself. And this year, with the lack of revenue, we're likely going to lose about $10.5 million. So we're working really hard to stay the course and keep to that $10.5 million, or hopefully less, by running revenue building events through Playland, through the drive-throughs, through the winter fair that we're going to hopefully be announcing very soon, and other rentals that we do on site. We've had some third-party rentals come in and use our park as well. So everything from, a driving school renting out one of our rooms for small groups, to parking lot rentals. Film is huge on our site. 3 of our buildings right now are contracted until February and March for a big film shoot that we've got going on site. So all of that contributes to revenue that we did not necessarily expect, but hopefully will, contribute to the bottom line and keep us on the course.
And I mean, a lot of your experiences are live. Are you doing anything that's hybrid or virtual?
No, we are not doing anything virtual or hybrid at this point. We offer digital assets instead of live assets as an offshoot to some partnership benefits that we're doing. But to date, everything that we've been doing is live, including preview days that happened all summer for our Peony Prize Home. We had, through the same ticketing system, we were able to do contact tracing tickets free for the public to come and walk through the home. We have a virtual walkthrough, but people wanted to actually physically enter the house and, see themselves in the home that they could potentially win. We have for a number of years had a virtual walkthrough. The public wanted to see it live, and the public was excited to do these drive-throughs and get their family out of the house and experience what we could experience as part of the fair.
Yeah, certainly from talking with Michael Harker at Enigma Research, the pent-up demand from audience to go to anything live, so that if it's set up that they can feel safe, that they reduce their anxiety around COVID. They do want those elements of normal. So I can certainly see how you book out pretty quickly.
I mean, I'll talk from personal experience. I've been working from home since March. Bit of a compromised immune system's keeping me in my own house. And so I bought a ticket to the Canada Day reverse parade drive-through and drove through it with my dogs in the car just to get out and do something. I think everybody feels the need to get out of their own space for a few hours, and especially, I'm sure, if you have children. I don't have kids, but if I had kids, I would want them to get out and do something safe. And I think that's why our Halloween drive-through has become such a popular experience. We had to add a third day to it this week because we were sold out of tickets. And so we're adding extra hours into the Halloween drive-through so that kids can come and trick or treat in a safe manner. And before the call, you and I were talking about, you don't know if your kids are going to be able to trick or treat in Ontario. We don't know that either. And we don't know that if they can, if it's really the safest thing to do, and if people really want to expose their kids to a bunch of houses that they don't know and people that they don't know. So why not do an event where you can drive in with your family, you can be dressed up in your costumes, and then you get a candy apple and candy floss from our team, bags of candy from some of our partners. We've got Encore Pacific doing some handouts, and the BIA is on site, and they're going to be doing some cookies or something as handouts into the trick-or-treat bags. And we have a partner who has provided us with these great trick-or-treat bags and started the process by stuffing little sampler gummies into the bags. So there's a really safe way to get your family out there.
Yeah, and definitely. I had a friend describe that Halloween is the perfect super spreader event. That door-to-door element. So changing that format, whether it's a costume parade or the drive-through, that it just changes those contacts and makes it safer.
Yeah, I agree. Somebody posted a meme not that long ago on Facebook, of all things, that said, if we're allowed to go to McDonald's drive-through, why can't we do Halloween? And I thought to myself, because McDonald's drive-throughs are constantly under the scrutiny of a health board who's making sure everything's clean. They're not going house to house and making sure every home is clean and that there's no virus attaching itself to a candy going out the door. So not to be a fear monger by any means, but I just think that this is the year we all need to think safety first.
Well, if you've been to a Harvey's, when they hand everything out to you, it comes on a hockey stick. So they're making sure they have that distance for you.
I love that. I love that. That's perfect. And how Canadian, right?
So I mean, you're talking about partners in general, but what's the sponsor re-engagement look like? And actually, should I call it re-engagement or continued engagement?
I think for the most part, it's continued engagement. We've been really careful with our team to keep the conversations active. There may not be an opportunity for one of our long-term partners to be involved in what we're doing currently because of resource issues on their side or lack of alignment with what we're currently working on, or lack of strong impressions for them to reinvest this year. But we're at least having the conversations. We're really good here about having an account management strategy on top of our business development strategy. And we stay close to our partners. We text back and forth with them. We kibitz with them. We sometimes just have conversations that have nothing to do with business, just to stay close. And that's just that's a training thing. You know, I think anybody can learn to do that, and it makes the hard conversations easier, and it makes the easy conversations so much fun when you have good relationships with people.
It's a huge difference. It's you know, if you only ever talk to your partners when renewal comes up,
Yeah.
This year is going to be incredibly tough. I think it's just having those relationship conversations that, you know, 75% of your interaction doesn't have to deal with putting your hand out and asking for a check.
Yeah, exactly. One of my roles in this new role that I've got is that I write the annual report, and I keep telling everyone that we're looking at our annual report right now as a 3-year process. 2019 was phenomenal. Our partners saw the best return they've ever seen. We had one of the best fairs we've ever had. We had a strong playland season. It was just a really celebratory year, and we want to express that in the 2019 annual report, which is coming out next month. But we want to set ourselves up for the story of recovery and resilience that we're going to have to talk about in 2021 and 2022. So let's start looking at that now and really developing what that message is as it relates to partners as well. You know, we need to show our partners resiliency. We need to show them that we are working every day to make sure that when we're back to a situation where they can engage, that it's going to be what they expect. And so we spend a lot of time in the planning stages for that.
And then you mentioned earlier just deferring some of the benefits from 2020 that's been parked into 2021. And I don't know if you can address it, but that deferred revenue piece, is that a big concern when you're looking at your budget going into 2021?
Not a big concern going into 2021, as long as we have some idea of what 2021 is going to look like and whether or not we can recognize that deferral in 2021, or if we're going to have to push it a second year. We just don't know at this point. So we've got plan A, plan B, plan C, based on, you know, normal year, sort of normal year, this year over again. And we have different targets set up for that. We're in the middle of starting our budgeting season for 2021 right now. We're on a fiscal March 31st fiscal, so we're just working through all of those details now. But that's all part of that, you know, staying in contact with your partners, making sure that they're still comfortable with what's going on. And the only way to do that is to have constant communication with them. We also have, with our prize home lottery, we don't work on that March 31st fiscal year end. We actually are working on the prize home lottery for 2021 right now. And so we're building out, we're very lucky to have multi-year partners. So that is a saving grace for our prize home. But, you know, are they happy with the evaluation that came back to them? Do they like the impressions that they got? Are they concerned about their multi-year agreement going into 2021? And so far, no, everybody's in good shape for it. And we are building the lottery program now because we actually have to do our application and launch it in January. So we're working hard right now on finalizing all those contracts. And so far it's all good.
And I guess that's, the big thing is it's your planning can't happen 2-3 months out. It sort of happens the day after the fair ends. You're planning for next year. So are you already planning for normal, planning for a repeat of what you did this year, or some sort of activity in between?
I think that there are many plans in place right now. We aren't on one path. We're on, I think, 3 or even 4 paths, and we need to, kind of push the button on one of those plans once we've got better intel as to what 2021 is going to look like for us.
Have you got some partner engagements that have looked fantastic this year and worked really well, and just kind of I don't know, in some ways worked like butter?
Our Prize Home ones, Prize Home partnerships have really, thankfully to the partners, ran like butter. We had a brand new land development partner who I just can't even say enough about them. They worked really hard with us and just kept reassuring us that they are good partners and they want to be good partners. So as we started to make adjustments in some of the benefits, they couldn't be on site. So we purchased a billboard in the neighborhood where the home's being built up in the Sea to Sky region. They were thrilled with that. The fact that we were shifting ahead of them, they didn't have to push us to make shifts. We were looking at it ahead of time, made them feel confident that we were looking out for their best interests as well. And it's our best interests too. I mean, we're selling lottery tickets, and if we don't get the word out, we don't sell the tickets, right? So we ended up having probably one of the best lottery years that we've ever had. Some of that has to do with people love to gamble in a downturn economy. So lottery tickets are an easy way to do that. Some of it was, and I will say a large percentage of it was people who buy year over year who just wanted to support the PNE. We've been very open about the challenges we've been having here in the park. And so they are reaching out and supporting us through the purchase of Prize Home tickets. So that's worked really well for us.
And I think, you've talked about that thought process of saying, okay, we're going to buy advertising in a space that's relevant to the partner. Have you had a lot of those activities where you've looked at, how are we going to provide different benefit in a way that's going to be helpful for those partners? So you're talking about some digital assets earlier. I don't know if you can highlight some of those activities.
Yeah, so it's important in this environment that we are able to provide a shift, because we don't have 750,000 people on site that can walk past the home and see all of the partner agreements. They can't see the beautiful hot tub. They can't see the robotic mower. They can't see the beautiful furnishings and the appliances firsthand. So we do things like we shift to having a digital turntable on our website that breaks down every piece of furniture, every appliance, the hot tub, the outdoor furniture on this really cool turntable, and people can look at pieces one at a time and then click out to go and purchase it at our partner website. So having that ability to have kind of that 3-step of course, the stuff was on site and we had a preview set of days. Having it online so that people who couldn't come out could still experience what was going on. And then our partners also had in store. So they had signage up in their stores. And I got to tell you, appliance sales and furniture sales out here are going through the roof. I am trying to buy an upright freezer right now. It's going to be February before it gets delivered to my house. So partners on our Prize Home are seeing an increase in sales, and they're telling us that the development we did with them to help promote them versus their competition is helping them. So we have converted a number of ideas into digital to allow for that. We do different posts on our channels that are aligned posts to our story and their story, again, with link offs to their websites to help with their ROI. So, and we always look for unique opportunities. So if a partner comes to us and says, what if? We entertain what ifs. We're not so structured that we can't entertain a what if. It might not always work, but it might work.
And then do you use any, the LiveGauge data, do you use that for any digital targeting, retargeting?
We don't at this time. There is an option with LiveGauge, and I would love to see a session on your channels that is LiveGauge based, because they've got some really phenomenal reporting where they can drive the IP addresses, which is what we collect in our dashboard. They can drive that to postal codes and really do some demographic work around postal codes, who's coming from where, which is exciting. We have not done that yet. I don't know that we would go to that caliber, but they also have an opportunity to do conversion data. So we have a couple of our experiential teams on site that have retail outlets that will have a LiveGauge in their booth for the 15 days. And then they'll put LiveGauge systems in the stores that are within a 50-kilometer radius of our fair. And they'll look at conversion data. This person saw me at the fair on August 22nd, and now they're in my store on September 15th to purchase something. So really excellent conversion data for brands to look at directly that I think is exciting.
Yeah, there's some amazing stuff out there. I mean, and I know LiveGauge and the team there quite well. We've done some work with MasterCard over the past few years, and they've got some amazing data for tracking. It's not cheap. If you've got the budget, it's well worth it. It's where you can take all the purchase information because you own your ticketing, and all of a sudden you've got an N of everybody who's used MasterCard to purchase on site, and then you can put the demographics against one of their 10,000 buckets that they've got, but then you can extend it out, so you know that they purchased and came on site while you had this activation with a sponsor on board, and then they can flip it forward and track, okay, Toys R Us was a sponsor over this month, and then in the 90 days following, that audience carried forward and went into Toys R Us and spent X dollars. So
Exactly.
you can translate that through. It's amazing. It's creepy, but it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And we're careful about our conversations around systems like LiveGauge, but we also work with a lot of government agencies on site, and they need strong reporting at the end of any event that they're doing with us. And really, LiveGauge became a key component of the reporting we did last year for the ministry that we had on site, to ensure that they were getting the data that they require in order to pay our bill at the end, essentially. So.
And are you using them right now for hotspotting some of your activities? I'm thinking about, in the amusement area, that are you tracking lines or using any of those kinds of elements?
We're not tracking through LiveGauge at all this year. We've postponed our engagement with them until we're back to bigger live events. We use them mostly for the fair, but we will also incorporate them into some of our smaller events. Like we did a Chinese Lantern Festival a couple of years ago and used it for that. But quite frankly, and I'll say this out loud, budgets are a concern. So we're looking at ways to do research that don't impact our budget negatively at this point, and LiveGauge would impact our budget negatively. So we'll go back to them next year when we're in a better situation to do that.
You were talking about earlier saying you manage, you're willing to discuss the what ifs. What's your approval process like for making those what ifs happen?
So we usually have a committee of either an executive committee or a planning committee, depending on what it is that we're looking at. To give you an example, last year for our fair, one of the things that was so phenomenal about our fair was that we had this unintentional theme that came out. We don't theme our fair, haven't for many years, but somehow last year it became all about transportation. We had CN Rail come to us. They were doing their 100th anniversary tour and wanted to have space for their West Coast stop. And TransLink was doing the Transport 2050 surveys and wanted to have a big presence. And so both of them came to us with programming, not just, you know, we want to attach to something you're already doing. They had programs built, and we love it when a partner has programs built and want to look for space. So CN Rail took over one of our parking lots for the first half of our fair, created a phenomenal guest experience, and were a true partner in the 2019 fair. And TransLink took over an entire, what we call Miller Drive. It's about 250 feet long and is a main artery between two zones of our fairgrounds. And they programmed it out incredibly, came in as a partner. Both got great benefits, you know, between hospitality to bring their staff in and show tickets. And there's an amazing amount of benefits that came along with it. But for us, the benefit was programming, big programming. And that goes through an approval process through our fair operations team to say, yes, we will give up that large amount of space because we see the value in the guest experience. It's kind of a no-brainer to approve something like that when it's high-end programming.
And do you find those elements of programming come as unsolicited inbound conversations or ongoing relationship?
I'd say for the most part, they're ongoing relationships. It's either somebody we know, somebody they know, somebody makes a comment that, oh, yeah, if you're going to be on the West Coast, you've got to come to the PNE, makes contact with us. Very little of that kind of big work is done in a silo. And very little of it is a surprise coming in, you know, like we don't just get a phone call one day saying this is going to happen. There are side conversations that are building up to the bigger conversation usually. That's why relationships are so key.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it comes back to having those ongoing conversations, having, you know, not necessarily a presentation deck of what you're doing, but something that you can go and have, here's what we've got coming on board. Discussions with people so that they're all keeping it top of mind.
Yeah, and one of the things, Brad, is that we are unique in that we don't have like a gold, silver, bronze partnership package and here are the benefits you get at all of those levels. We like to build out our partnerships pretty uniquely. We want to talk to our partners about what their measurable objectives are, what their KPIs are, what they see as important for them being a part of what we're doing, and seeing if what they're doing aligns with what we're doing. And so we build out very independent from each other proposals for one-off opportunities that people really get excited about because they love that we're thinking about what will work for both of us. We're not just, you know, building a stage and asking them to put their name on it. We do that too, don't get me wrong, but we want people to feel like they're an important part of what we're doing here. And so for that reason, we don't have those kind of, lack of a better term, cheesy packages that, you know, we all kind of started with in the sponsorship realm.
Well, and your board always expects you to have one.
Our board's really good about that, actually.
Now, do you have a series of sort of stock benefits? Basically, you've got your menu that you draw from, and then you'll pull into to a deck. I mean, I guess that's been my workaround when I'm having those conversations. Is it's not a formed deck. It just here's all of the pieces that we would draw into.
Yeah, yeah. It depends on what it is. Prize Home has stock benefits and levels of investment, not really silver, bronze, gold, whatever, but there are levels of investment get you X benefits, and some of those benefits are huge, right? If you buy in at a certain level, you're going to get exposure in our TV ads, and others are going to get exposure on our website, depending on what those investment levels are. So we've gridded that out, and we've been really cohesive in how we present Prize Home partnerships. They're really retail partnerships for the most part, and we want to make sure that they understand what they're going to get very clearly, and we want to know what their idea of good ROI is, so that we can put those together.
Yeah.
For other, sorry?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, for other opportunities outside Prize Home, which is really the closest to gridding that we get, we have a massive list of assets. We can develop new creative ideas. We can find space where space never was before. The CN Rail activation went in a parking lot that we only used for private VIP parking previously, and we opened it up because we needed that space. We opened it up to the public, and it worked remarkably well. So we're able to, make those shifts and make quick decisions so that we can do something special.
Yeah, that development piece is huge, because there's nothing worse than when you come in and you've got a set price and you've got your listing of offering, and then somebody starts going, well, I don't want line number 1, line 6, line 10, and then you're stuck having to reduce your expectations.
Yeah, the Playland team laughs at me sometimes because they'll find me out there taking photographs of like the bumper cars or the glass house, and they'll say to me, what are you doing with that? I'm like, I'm going to attach a partner to this. I need to get some ideas about what I can do and where I can put things, because I think that we could align X with this ride because it makes sense. And so we're always trying to find creative new ways to bring partners in. Doing brag and tag just doesn't work for us.
That was my trip to La Ronde in Montreal last year. They had some really unique activations they were doing. It was just subtle sponsorship. There was a long line for a roller coaster, and they basically canopied it and branded it with Coke. And it was like, okay, yeah. That is brilliant, and it's just so subtle.
Yeah, we have a Coke area that has the misters on it, so that keeps people cool going towards the coaster. It's those kind of things are intelligent.
Yeah, and you utilize your assets and what you've got, and creativity goes a long way. And I think you can't have that creativity on a cold call. It requires that relationship.
100%. I was on a webinar not that long ago, and they said that when you make your cold call, know 5 or 6 things about them and pitch them that thing. Pitch them. And I'm thinking to myself, I get where you're going with it, but really you need to get past discovery and you need to get into the creative conversations. And if the person you're having discovery with isn't a creative soul, you need to get them to invite the creative souls in their company to be a part of the conversation, because you want to create something that at the end of the day, you're both going to be happy with, that I can evaluate, and that the guest is talking about at the end. So, if we've got a Heinz ketchup activation on site a few years ago, they were doing custom labels. The social channels blew up because everybody wanted their little 500 milliliter bottle of ketchup with their own photograph on it. It's great programming, right? And it worked for us. It worked for them. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. Even the Coke bottles with your name on it, if you don't have a standard run-of-the-mill name, there were definitely a lot of people who were lining up. I saw at multiple events trying to get their name printed on it.
Oh yeah, we had the Coke truck here in 2015 and the lineups were around the bend, hours long.
Are you able to talk about Christmas yet, or have you got that going public yet?
We have not gone public with it yet. The hope is that we will be running a 10-day winter fair. That's about all I can say about it. But if there are any properties, or sorry, not properties, any brands or any agencies on site who are thinking they might want to do something on the West Coast, we are the place to talk to, because we're going to do something pretty phenomenal.
That, and as you were teasing with me on the pre-call, that Santa's still coming.
Oh yeah, you got to have Santa, and maybe a couple of mischievous elves.
Well, you don't put the elf on the shelf in the quarantine jar, which I've seen.
I've seen that too. That's pretty funny. Maybe we need to do a giant one of those.
Awesome. Well, Melissa, thanks so much for your time today. It's been fantastic to hear what's going on. There's some amazing stuff that you've been doing, and really looking forward to seeing what you can continue to build, because I think there's some learning that people can take and bring forward to other activities. And I've seen on LinkedIn that Pat O'Brien from Stampede has tagged you a few times. I mean, looking forward to seeing what they can do and what Sarah and the team can do here at the CNE. And knowing there's a lot of municipalities on the call today, that there's still a lot of amazing engagement. And in addition to this recording, which will be available on our site, I'd recommend anybody who's interested, go find the SMCC Vancouver chapter webinar from last week. Mm-hmm. They did a great discussion. They had Best Buy on, but then they had Vancouver's Mural Fest. And talking about how they've totally repivoted their event. They thought they weren't going to run it, and then they realized, of course we can run it. Let's just see how we can do it differently. Exactly. So there were some really good conversations around that. Again, we've got Nick Marullo from Cinco coming on in November, talking about consumer experiences and sponsor activation. So he's going to have some very creative discussion around that. And then Gavin Roth and Francesco Gentile talking about sales training and sponsorship focus. I imagine there'll be a lot of questions that will be pretty engaged on that. So information will be coming out in the next couple of weeks about both those events. Want to thank you guys for joining us. And again, Melissa, thank you for your time. Anything you want to say as a final thought?
Just two things. First of all, thank you, Brad, for including me in the coffee chat. I've been enjoying them all summer long, so thank you for allowing me an opportunity to speak. And second, for any questions that we didn't get to, I'm happy to respond to questions via email. Brad, you can send questions over to me by email, or send people directly to me, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Great. Well, thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.